Hola. Maybe I'm too early. Everybody's like not coming on. Bye, John. You don't want to be doing that. That be but better be safe than sorry. But yeah, I mean, most of the time I'll be talking anyway, and if you just want to kind of just listen in, that'd be okay too. See if I can actually make this work. Well, you guys been bugging me about not testing everything, so I'm actually for a change, I'm actually bringing all the different parts and all the models and trying to see if they fit together before we actually order anything. Because the way I used to do it is basically just sort of winging it and just go and start loading like stuff onto my cart and buy it and bring it home and see if it actually works. Lately, I think that's not going to work because I have a pile of parts that don't work here. And of course, now Fusion is going to give me a issue with it like spinning beach ball thing. So I think I might have to force quit this one. Been doing that. I don't know if you guys had the same issue, but it's been very temperamental lately. Um, Seems like it doesn't want to work. So anyway, so what I did is last few days I've been working sort of every waking moment nonstop on the some rough ideas that I had for the cube, and some of the stuff came out pretty interesting. I mean, I think I finally got a workflow that works, and that's making my life easier because I was sort of running around in circles trying to figure out how to best start. The issue was, oh crap, of course I picked the wrong one. Um, the issue was that like the print itself, I mean, is a pretty complex thing to try to get working, right? So um, you kind of have to pick a point where um, you anchor it, and then you start to go uh, like pick a part. Let's say right now, what I did in the last 2 days was I picked the build platform, and once I picked the build platform, that's what I started to model. And once I started to model the build platform, um, I started to bring in things like the bearings and the lead screws and the extrusions that goes around the frame, and then basically I started to see. clearance issues, and then I started playing around um, with different size extrusions, and then I came up with you know different profiles, because there's different profiles you could buy, like 30 30 60, 60 60, and so on. And then I started talking to Media and Tisa, and I said, well, I'm building a new printer. I don't want it to know the availability of these special extrusions that you have. And basically, she said, the really big ones, like the 6060 and the right corner 6030 I showed you guys last time. She said those are pretty specialized, and it's pretty tough for her to get those. So, so what I did was I ended up just saying, well, I needed something that is going to be easy for you guys to source. So I decided that the biggest one I'm going to use is going to be a 3060, and I think she said 3060 she could get. So um, if yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to go with, is the 3060 for some of them and 3030 for the others. So I'm hoping that I could stick this in there so I could kind of see where I'm going with this. Uh, Bear with me for 1 second while I get this into place. I need a bigger monitor, that's what I need. Okay, good. I think that's good enough so you guys get the idea. So I think I have a rod. Let me just stick the rod in here too on here. That's a 12 mil rod. I think I have a 10 mil rod. Oh, I do. Uh, yeah, sort of. Should have done this when it was off screen, but alright, close enough. You guys get the idea. Okay, good enough. I'll fix it up later when I have the bigger screen. I think. Actually. Oh, I have. Okay, hang on. I could do this. There we go. There we go. Got it. So, um, this is. I know I use a line command, but anyway, I gotta learn how to do that. But basically, this is the. Let me save this before I lose it. This is the rough idea about how I want to lay things out. Basically, what's happening is this is a kind of sort of a cutaway view of the printer. I mean, I didn't model the whole thing obviously because there's no point until I figure out the clearance issues and whether or not things gonna fit. But the let me just kind of rotate this around so you guys see the back. Um, so basically, the idea is going to be let me get a good view here. Okay, so basically the idea is that this is the front of the machine. Is purposely kept. I kept the elevated platform movement on the left and right side of the printer because I want to leave the front of the printer open for accessibility. So then the platform itself, the build plate is riding on this 2040 extrusion, and I start to draw the printed plastic part that's going to hold these two 12 millimeter linear bearings, and the promenade for the lead screw that's going to drive this platform up and down. Basically, the top of the platform is going to be determined by the rod holder here, and I had downloaded an E3D V6 to show that basically the spider carriage is going to be on top of here where my mouse is currently rotating. So this rod should really move this up a bit. Basically, the idea is going to be that this rod assembly should be about uh, here in. Just imagine that this extrusion extends up, and the spider, there's a cross rod that's going to go from here across, and the spider is going to sit up here. So what that means is that um, the actual platform doesn't need to, the rods for the platform doesn't need to go all the way up to the top. It um, it basically is the spider is going to be the spider and the cross rods is going to be above this point here where the bed is. So there's no chance that this is going to interfere. So that allows us to uh, make this pretty compact area here without we don't really lose a lot of space. And the uh, the motors and everything is going to be within the confines of the extrusion uh, cube itself. Do you think it'd be better to use double length 12 mm? Yeah, so um, it basically these single length 12 millimeter right now is kind of placeholders, so you guys get an idea of what the whole assembly is gonna look like. Um, I think I was looking at the flange double length flange bearings here. So basically, what's gonna happen is the whole platform is going to be held up by two flange bearings and the flanged lead screw nut. So it should be it'll be changed. Like this is just a rough idea, right? I didn't really remodel this part yet. So once I get a chance to replace these two bearings with the flange nut bearing model, then I think that makes a little bit more sense. But I think even at okay, so I think maybe you also have to understand that this whole assembly is going to be on this side as well because it's held up by two sides. I only modeled the one side, but this crossbar here is going to be on this side as well. So um, the platform is being held up by two pairs of 12 mil rods and two motors and two lead screws. So it should be more than enough to hold up the weight even with the single. But probably end up with going with the double anyway, just so that we don't have like yeah it's not a cantilever. I think that's what it looks like this. But I think if I showed you let's see this one here. Yeah, so like that. So there's going to be double on either side, and then basically the platform is held up and moved up and down on both sides. So does that make sense, Patrick? So right now, like I said, let me just zoom in here a bit. So basically, right now, these are let's see, if I can highlight this. These are all 3030, and that we already use right now anyway. So those are we're familiar with. The vertical member is a little bit interesting. It's a 3060, but the bit that's different is, I got you zoom in here. We use this one is a M8 by 40 that goes through just like the Haribo. We're familiar with that. The one that is new is this one here, which is a M8 by 70. So it, I same idea. We are going to cross both of these profiles into the cross member here. So you notice that these two are roughly offset from each other so that they don't interfere with the bolts don't interfere with each other. There's an extra hole here. Unfortunately, the way that Masumi has done the customization is that these two holes comes out as a pair. So there's no way to just say specify this one. This hole comes automatically. So I'm gonna try to see if I could do something with that hole there. Um, if not, I'm gonna have to probably put something there to plug it up because it does go all the way through to the other end. So um, I don't know. Like I can't tell them not to drill it. So that comes with the as a pair because I only specified the distance from the edge to drill these two. This one is a single hole, so it should be fine. I think if we were really picky about it, T-Sun will probably not drill this one. Just drill the one that we need. But either way is fine. Because what's happening is that at the bottom, we also basically do the same thing on the bottom. Is we offset the two bolts. One goes on top of the other. So what that means is that the distance from here to here, um, like you see that this one is this top one here is goes with this one is and this this one goes with this one, so that the distance is roughly offset to be the same. So the panel for this one and the panel for this one is going to be cut the same size. Because if I did it the other way, where these two are swapped, then basically I have one small panel, one big panel. But the way it is now, the panels will be the same size. The other thing is the way I ended the rod down here, because you're not going to be able to reach the bottom of this frame anyway. So you could end the rod early. So that rod there is roughly 350 millimeters. So you do lose about I would say about 25 on top and bottom. So roughly the travel for the whole bed is going to be about 300. Not counting like the how, depending on whether or not we use the double length bearings here. We could go higher, probably, but on this model it's on 350. So um, I'm probably looking at going higher because I think that's what we really want, is to be able to go higher on the Z. So I got to see go higher. The other thing that's not modeled on here is this extrusion should really extend further up. What I mean by that is that if we go, let's say, another 200 millimeters higher, uh, that gives you the chance to put a ceiling on the enclosure. Because right now, you need about 250 to clear the spider and then you need some room for the filament to travel this whole bed area. So I think he's going to be looking at another 250, 300 millimeter on this extrusion itself. So that gives you about 750 high, six, 700, let's say 700 high, and roughly about 400 of that is probably going to be used for the bed travel. So it's a little bit like you lose that 300 on top. But if you don't want, if you like, um, if you don't want to enclose it, then basically you could cap it off like another 150 here, and you cap it off, and you're done. But a lot of guys wanted it to be fully enclosed. So yeah, we're gonna need to basically extend this one. So most likely I'm gonna have two bombs, um, one for the enclosed version, one for without, and you probably save a few bucks by not going with the taller one. Excuse me. Yeah, worst case like that. I think worst case is that if the guys who get it from Masumi get this extra hole, yeah, we could just run a grommet through there, and if we wanted to run wires there or whatever, it'd be fine. Um, I'm gonna have to see also how we're gonna mount the motors, because really I only have one surface here, which is this one here, and it looks pretty tight for a motor. So I'm gonna have to see if I can actually fit a motor right underneath the rod here against this extrusion here. Um, it's a tight fit. That's why I said like it'd be easier if I were to model this whole thing and then figure out the clearances from there, see if that actually will work before I start going too far down the road. Um, I think the first step is pretty much to um, get these rods sorted out, so that we could start building the spider. And once the spider is in place, then we could vary the length of the rods, and the size of this platform holder, or the platform rails here, to figure out how much offset from the edge of this extrusion and from this edge of the extrusion to give clearance for the spider to move the entire bed. Because right now, this is a rough guess, and it's pretty close to utilizing the whole bed. One thing that I have a concern with is the bolts, because the bolts, even though they are recessed to counterbore into the bed, it's still going to be an issue, because there's not really, like at that spot, it's going to be PI is going to be not supported. So on one of the beds here, I already had punched a hole through one of the bolts. So um, I think Les was suggesting that we fill this with solder after we enclose it, and then if we need to, we could always like suck the solder on and still be able to use that bolt. That bolt is actually um, running through and hitting like hitting uh, the 2020 in the bottom. Let's see if I can actually get this one to turn off. No, I can't. So I'll show you guys next time. But basically, I'll move it over. So this is the 2040, and I modeled the frame cap so that it keeps the end looking pretty neat, and then I also model the like insert into the model the T nuts. So the idea is going to be there's going to be 4 T nuts that hold up the vertical part of the printed part, and then there's going to be 3 nuts on the bottom to hold it into place horizontally, and that plastic piece is basically in case these two varies in the palm net, and that makes one half of the platform lift, and the other half goes on this side, and that's it. That's as simple as gonna get for the platform. That leaves this area underneath wide open for the silicon heater. So and also the channel allows me to make some cable clips to clip the wiring so that they they go neatly against the sides of the rails. Um, Overall, I think the progress is pretty good. I mean, I did some. I did. This is probably like what, version 8 or version 9 of this design. So hopefully everything will work out. I did kind of flip flop back and forth between um, the crane, the cargo crane idea, and the Ultimaker type spider movement. I think probably we need to try to do the Ultimaker, the Ultimaker type movement, mainly because like that was what we started out to do. So yeah, I was thinking about that. Um, I was thinking about threading it from the bottom, and what we could do is actually ask for recess holes cut through the bottom to go through the extrusion, and then bolt it from the bottom. The plate itself, um, because it's from the US, they use I think it's 3/8. It's about roughly 9.5 millimeters. So we probably could get the screw to come up and engage about 3 or 4 millimeters of that without really having a lot of issues. The only problem with that is um, the guy who makes the plate and the guy who who drills the holes for the extrusion is two different guys, right? So you would kind of have to buy the extrusion with the hole drilled, take it to the guy or do it yourself, and then using the hole as a guide is to drill the hole into the bottom of the plate to attach it from the bottom. The chance of that um, not working is pretty high. So I don't know if that's a risk that we want to take. The right now, if I could bring up the other one, so bring up the platform now and show you why we decided to go this way. So um, okay, so Pat, see this? I modeled it for you, so this 12 mil doesn't hit the bottom. See, it clears the nut. So um, the reason why I chose to use 2040 for this purpose is you see these two bolts that hold the bed in place could slide along this extrusion. So if you happen to be just millimeters off from like when you drill the MIG plate, if you're millimeters off, you are going to be held with it. Like you could still slide those nuts back and forth here to get to the point that you need. The other thing is that this also makes sure that you are true. So um, the only really the only requirement really is for you to make sure that these two bolt holes are parallel. Otherwise, you could go any length along here, and to be honest, if you don't move your printer all that much, you probably only need one bolt in the middle, and that'll do because the it like it won't move. So like it's a non-moving platform. So if you really risk take it, you could actually go with one bolt in the middle, but I wouldn't suggest it. Um, it was and what you need to do after you put the one bolt in the middle is basically have the have a guide to make sure that it's parallel to this bar. But two bolts is good, and also that allows us to sort of also by some testing. If I don't save this, and I'll show you the other one, show you the plate. So um, So right now, these holes are parametric. So if, let's say, we decide that we wanted to bring these holes closer or move these holes further out, we still have a lot of variables here. So um, I think most of the time we are going to be pretty good shape inside the main printed area. If you're really going to push it to the outside boundaries, then I think we could go and get a new platform made so that you basically on the edge of the platform, or we have side molded holders that hold the plate, and the plate basically sits there by gravity, and then it won't be like you will have the whole surface to use, and basically becomes a removable platform. The There's a lot of things we could try, but right now I think for the first iteration is I think this is a pretty good compromise, having it almost to the edge of the bed, and this is still going to give you like I think this is if I measure this here, like 275 across, right? So that's 275 across and 300 this way. I mean, that's still pretty big compared to what we have today. So um, we could probably push these out another 5 or 10 mil on either side. We could do 85, 290 times 300. Whether you need like a full 300 by 300, that's debatable. So I would say you live with that. You'd be pretty happy with what it is already. And I think most of the time our limitation is on the Z height anyway. So is the XY is nice, but most of the time you don't want to be constrained by Z. So this will give you like at least 350. That's the initial version. If I could fit a 400 or 450 in there without having too much issue, I would do that. 12 mil rods here. I don't think I have issue with that moving, and because it's constrained top and bottom, that should be pretty good. Um, so I kind of want to close this and kind of show you guys how I've been doing this, and hopefully it's the correct workflow, because the I've been having a lot of trouble with starting with Fusion 360, because I'm used to using like Tinkercad. So what I've been doing is man, this cold's kicking my ass. Um, what I've been doing is I've been going through and picking out all the hardware that I will be using, and all the models for those hardware that I could possibly be using, like 8, 10, and 12 mil um, lady bearings and washers and fender washers and so on, and the different size M4s and M5s and M8s that I'd be using, and I've kind of stuck them all in here. I modeled the mix 6 plate, the stepper motors, and all the T-nuts. And basically what I've been doing is I've been basically aligning, like dropping them into, um, see you, John. So I've been kind of dropping the different parts in the extrusions. You can download the extrusion models from Sumi, so I've been doing that with all the drill holes. They finally updated it so that you could actually get all the drill holes modeled as well. So those come in handy. Threaded ends and all that. So we've been pretty busy with those, just dropping them in and then aligning them, and then making sure that things fit. I modeled the end caps because the 2040 and the 3060 end don't come with good end caps, so I modeled those. And then all the old stuff that basically I decided, it was either a change of ideas, or the parts I no longer use, like let's say Lima 17 with T5 pulley. I changed that, so I kind of kept the old version here, so I had the old history, but I didn't want to go back and look at it, but it's all here. Um, I've found this bearing drawing, so we it opens it up. Has every bearing from like the 5 mil all up to like the 40 mil linear bearing. So what I do is come in here, basically um, export the one I needed, and then that's how I brought it into uh, the this folder here, so that I can use the different size bearings and drop them in and make sure that I have the good clearance and all that. Hopefully that is a quick kind of overview of the progress so far. This see my finger. Okay, this is basically printing one of my orders. This is the first time I actually sold the Haribo printed parts. Um, that's going to go towards buying the the Masumi parts I need to do the initial testing. It's in the Tindy store, so if you wanted to buy a set, it's on there. Basically includes all the parts you need to convert to Haribo, except the gantry parts. The gantry parts you will have to either reprint yourself or you reuse the existing ones that you got from the kit. Uh, I think I might end up still printing them for this guy anyway because he was pretty good to me. He's willing to wait for it. So the PTG, I think I got plenty left for that red, so I'll probably end up printing it for him anyway. I think all he wanted is 7 blocks, but that 7 block is going to come up after this. Roughly, last time I counted was about let's see, 14, 19. About 36 hours. So I basically have been printing one plate a day. It hasn't been too bad. I printed one yesterday, and then I printed one today when I was at work. This one goes overnight, and tomorrow morning I should set the next one. I think there were some questions about the streaming schedule. Basically, I think I'll stick with Tuesday, Thursday for the lighter, less than an hour streams, and then Saturday I think is still going to be noon on Saturday for the European guys. Not too many of them show up last time, but I hope that the word gets out that I do the Saturday stream, that they'll come on, and you can see um, if they like if they could want to do some question and answer with them on Saturday. So minimize that, and let's bring up the I think this is the one, the IPS CAD. Um, this is basically the rod holder that we're going to be using. Like I mentioned that last time in the stream, uh, the this the rod holder has some degrees of movement, so that if we needed um, to do some tweaks, it still works pretty well to give us about 5 to 15, I think 5 to 15 degrees of freedom. The pivot angle is like 29 on, let's say, on the 10th is 25, and on 12 is 21. That's pretty extreme. That's basically saying like you're off by 21 degrees. So we don't really need that much. We just basically probably need at most half a degree or degree of adjustment. Because basically what's happening is the part that's gonna give us the most trouble is gonna be the spider. The spider has cross rods, and basically the position of the cross rods um, is determined by the um, the printed part. So if your printed part is slightly off, let's say the bridging is not exact, you might be a little bit tilted. And when you're a little bit tilted, that means that the one side tends to bind more than the other. So that's one downside about the whole Ultimaker type movement with the cross rods, is that you really at the mercy of the spider. If your spider is not done great, it will bind. So we're gonna have to find a way to solve that spider binding issue. The I'm trying to see if there's a way to actually alleviate that by using a a metal or a wood like laser cut or something spider versus a printer spider. um, it'd be a little tough because the most of let's say if we went with the 5 millimeter cross rods, we could have reused the Ultimaker spider, but because we're using 8 mil rods across the middle, that's a little tough. Um, our other choice is that um, we could go with um bearing holders for and then we have to have adjustability of the bearing holders. Yeah, they call it spider because basically the cross rods end up being like a spider's web, and then all the rods on the outside kind of weaves into a web. So that's why they call it the thing in the middle of spider. Um, hopefully, like it'll be okay. I'm hoping that it'll be okay. So um, I think I had. You guys gonna watch all the stuff that I've been watching so far. There you go, this guy. Yeah, so this guy basically has the same idea. Is um, he used he used a pretty similar system. The only thing is that he was using 2020 instead of 3030, and so you could tell here that his spider is um, very primitive, which was probably um, what I would go with is something small like that. Um, I think if I find a video of the uh, this one, I think this is the one that you guys were all watching before, where basically that's the idea that the E3s hang off the bottom of the spider. So all of these basically had the same downside as the MK2X, which is the reliance on these corner brackets for structure. I really like you guys know I really didn't like having to rely on those corner brackets. Number one, they cost money. Number two is that they don't make the printer any stronger. So um, I decided that forget. I'm going to go ahead and use cross bolts like the Haribo does. So it is going to be a lot stronger. But that means you guys have to buy M8 by 70s, which unfortunately is a requirement for the 3060 extrusion that we're going to be using. So that's pretty much the idea, right? Is that you can tell that even for this one, he extended the ZY rods higher than he needed to be because really at the end of the day, it could have been lower than the E3D and it still work. But I think he was using this more for the structure to reinforce the, the pulleys here, which makes sense because he needed the structure there. But I think for me is I'll probably end up just going a little lower than that. But that's the idea, right? That's where the inspiration comes in. Is basically these guys have done some of the guesswork of that movement and using the cross rods as axles made sense. The only change, like I said, is they're using 8 mil rods here and I think 10 mil rods for the Z. We went all out, went 12 mil rods on the Z and 10 mil rods on the outside and 8 mil rods on the inside. So our span is also bigger. I think these guys are doing 300 by 300 spans. Like we're doing 350 spans because our inside working envelope is like the aim is to be 300 by 300. So we need at least a 350, 375 span. 8 millimeter rod, if any length greater than 350 ends up flexing. So we had to go with 10 mil rods for the long spans. Uh, there was a question I think on Slack before on Mattermost before was, well, the cross rods are 8 mil. Well, the cross rods are gonna be shorter, because what's happening is that we're gonna be starting from here to here. So roughly we're gonna be about 325, I think, from here to here on hours. So that's still within acceptable range. And you also have to remember that we have crossbars here. So the cross that goes across, like in a perpendicular direction, is going to give that a little bit of strength as well, right? Because it's the having perpendicular rods is going to hold each other up. So the 8 mil on the inside will still work pretty well. The 5 mil that the maker was using was working fine. I think the 8 mil is gonna be fine, I think. And sticking with all the rods, being being the way they are, they cheap, and our axles are like the bearings and everything is relatively cheap. I think we are pretty good shape. The only concern I had really is the extrusion availability from T-Sun. Um, I think that I'm probably gonna be calling it anyway. It's like 46 minutes, and I've been telling the European guys I won't go too in depth into the each stream on so that way they don't miss too much. They can still review this stream and it's still be pretty good. So I think I'm gonna call it and go back to work on this design and see what I can come up with. Next update is probably not going to be Thursday. I think Thursday I want to kind of open that up for other things. So if you have any ideas for topics and so on, I'm open to suggestions. I don't really want to have all three streams the whole week talking about just the cube itself. I kind of want to move away from just being one single subject. If there's anything you guys want to cover, I think Patrick was showing the G Max, the new G Max. Sort of disappointed. I think they're still sticking with the moving bed idea. I know that they're using linear rods, so linear rails for the Z and the X and probably the Y. But the problem is that like you still have this huge mass moving, and that bed is huge, right? Of that model moving back and forth. I think like they'll be still have limitations. It'll be better, but there's still be limitations on that design. So hopefully they get that addressed soon. And I think the all bearer is gonna end up buying that one anyway. Knowing him, he's gonna upgrade. So um, yeah, I think I'm gonna call it here. I don't want to kind of linger on. I guess I'll see you guys back in chat a little bit later.